Hello, friends. Welcome to Main Street Books virtual edition. My name is Beth, and I'm the events manager at Main Street Books. And we're so glad to be with you here this afternoon to hear from four really special authors. It's almost summertime, and when I think of summer, I think of a couple of things. Number one, I think of getting out of the heat and getting into a pool. And number two, I think about getting out of the boredom and into great books. And so books have always been a huge part of my summers, and I hope that they're going to be a huge part of your summers as well. And so we wanted to get summer kicked off by featuring four local writers, all of whom live close by and who have written and published real books. Their books are available at Main Street Books. So we encourage you, if you are interested and you like what you hear, you can swing by the bookstore and find their books on the shelves over in the kids section. I am going to turn it over to them shortly. But before I do that, I just want to quickly introduce each of them. Our first guest author today is Alison Andrews. Hi, Allison.
Everybody.
Allison has won awards for her writing. And she's also used writing as a way to help make bedtime at her house less frustrating, which I can certainly understand. She has written a story, Crazy Adventures, starring Sydney and her real life cousin, Eli. And she also writes for magazines. And she's got a pretty cool project going on right now where she is trying to visit 50 places she's never been to the year that she turns 50. So maybe she'll tell us a little bit about that too. But Alison Andrews is going to be our first reader today. I'm going to introduce the other writers and then we'll kick it off with Alison. Oh, there's some more folks joining us. Awesome. Welcome. Okay, next up we have a writer named Joe Garrick. Hi, Joe.
Hey, everybody.
Joe has written a book called Whose Hoof Is That? And it is inspired out of two things, a love for animals and the environment, and also a love for music. And so I'm excited to hear him read from his book today. And I think he's are you wearing an ASU shirt right now?
Yeah, Appalachian State.
Yep, up in the mountains. And maybe some of you have been to visit the beautiful mountains and the cool city of Boone, where Appalachian State is. Joe loves to make others laugh. He was just telling us some really funny dad jokes in the waiting room before we got started. So maybe also today he'll tell a couple of jokes as he reads. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having us.
Next up, we have a writer named Frank Johns. Hi, Frank.
Hi, everybody.
Frank has written a book that has a really quirky and interesting title to me. That's what first drew my attention about it. He has written a book called that refers to Passy Boy. And I think this was inspired originally by his grandsons. Is that right?
Yep, all five of them.
All five grandsons and a few Passy wars. So I don't know if any of you have ever been attached to a Passy. In my house, we call them, oh, he brought his Passy today. That looks great. In my house, we've called them Nooks or Nucks. And we've had quite a few of those battles ourselves over here. So Frank, we're so excited that you're here and that you wrote a book. And I hope you're not going to try to read your book with your pacifier in.
No, I'm not that good.
Okay. And last up, our other local writer today that we're featuring is named Randy Smith. Hi, Randy.
Hi, everybody.
Randy loved reading as a kid, and that is one of the primary reason that she has also started writing her own stories. She's also has a teaching background. Yay for teachers this year.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Hooray for all the teachers and for all the students. And she also has some experience teaching her own daughters at home, which is its own challenge, as I have learned this year as well.
Yes.
She has written a book about Logan and Lucky, and this is a special friendship between a girl and her big dog. And so we're excited to hear that story in a bit as well. So For all of our guests who are here today, we invite you to sit back, enjoy. We'll have some opportunities for you to share some things about your life as we read through, but I am going to turn it over to Allison to kick us off.
Hey, hi, everybody. My book is called The Adventures of Sid and Eli, and it's about two real life cousins. Do you guys have a cousin maybe that you really like to hang out with? I'll show you what the real Sid and Eli look like. You see right there? That's the real Sid and Eli. They're teenagers now. Okay, here we go. Sid and Eli sat at the kitchen counter eating grilled cheese sandwiches. They had nothing planned for the day, but adventure always seemed to find them. Sid, short for Sydney, had long, curly blonde hair. Eli, short for Elijah, had short, curly black hair. Maybe you guys have nicknames too. Sid was loud. Eli was quiet. Sid was cautious. Eli was fearless. Look, he's swinging way higher than Sydney. They didn't look the same, but that didn't matter. They were cousins and they were buddies. Sid and Eli laughed and chewed their way through lunch. "Let's go play," Sid ordered. She had a way of telling Eli what to do, but he didn't mind. Eli wiped the crumbs off his face and jumped down from the stool. "Be careful, you two," shouted Sid's mom as they ran out the door. Does your mom tell you that when you leave? They stepped out the back door and into the sunshine, then headed straight for the mulch path that curved around the garden. Eli picked up a stone that was partially hidden under a bush. He looked at it, then threw it back down, and decided it wasn't interesting enough. In the corner of the garden, Sid found a stick that had fallen from a large oak tree. The stick was almost as tall as she was. "Perfect," she declared, dragging it behind her. At the back of the garden sat a little metal table on a small stone path. The two buddies sat down, surrounded by a wall of flowers that protected them from nosy intruders. "What do you want to do today?" said Sid. Eli looked around in search of a plan. He scooted off his chair and walked to the pond that sat just in front of the wall of flowers. He knelt down and put his hands in the cool water. "Eli, Mom said we have to be careful," Sid reminded him, sweeping a curl out of her face. "Look," Eli shouted, ignoring her. There's something shiny down there at the bottom." Sid loved shiny things. Do you guys like shiny things? Sid loves shiny things. She found them so hard to resist. "Maybe it's a gold coin," she said as she knelt down beside Eli. They stared curiously at the shiny thing in the water, trying to figure out what it was. Suddenly, the wind picked up out of nowhere and the shiny thing began to spin. It spun faster and faster and got bigger and bigger as it moved closer to the surface of the water. Eli reached out to touch it. "Cool." Before Sid could say a word, the sunshine disappeared and the sky got dark. A hole opened up in the center of the shiny thing, and the two buddies leaned in to get a closer look. The ground around them started to shake, and the cousins tumbled headfirst into the center of the shiny thing. "Oh no," they shouted as they spun downward. Down, down, down they went. I wonder where they're going to land. You know where they landed? They landed in a ooey gooey river of melted cheese. "Where are we?" said Eli. "I don't know," Sid replied, "but it doesn't look like the backyard. We're going to be in big trouble." Sid's mom always told them to watch out for each other, and now seemed like a pretty good time to do that. Sid grabbed hold of the edge and, dripping with cheese, pulled herself out. Look at the gooey cheese all over. I think I'm stuck, said Eli. Sid grabbed his hand. She was going to have to use all her muscles to get him out. She pulled and pulled, but simply wasn't strong enough. Sid started to panic. She could feel her heart beating faster, her body tensing up, and her palms were getting kind of sweaty. She really wished she had her blankie right now, the one she had left on her bed like a big girl. It always made her feel better. Do you have a blankie or an animal that you love to sleep with, maybe, that makes you feel better too? Then Sid remembered there was one muscle she hadn't used yet. Do you know what it is? It was the most important muscle she had, her thinking muscle. She took the stick she had been holding when they fell into the shiny thing and used it to help Eli. See how she pulled him right out of the cheese. Let's get out of here, Eli said, sounding just a tiny bit scared. She followed him into the strange world. Have you ever seen anything like that? Rainbows were upside down, like big smiles in the sky. Fish wore tennis shoes. And the trees were pink and glittery. A smell of pancakes and syrup filled the strange world. This is awesome, shouted Sid. The cousins darted from the spectacular to the fabulous, laughing and playing all the while. Sid was so busy dancing in a field of bright blue dandelions that she didn't see the giant caterpillar in her path until smack! The giant bug turned its big green eyes toward the tiny girl. It curled around her waist and lifted her up into the air. Uh-oh. Eli, help! Screamed Sid. Eli tried to find something to scare off the angry larva, but all he could see were flowers. Flowers, flowers, nothing but flowers. Wait, that's it, he thought. Eli ran between the flowers, shaking them one by one and sending pollen flying through the air. It looked like a blue snowstorm. The caterpillar twitched and squirmed and let out a great big achoo. Have you ever had pollen in your nose, how it itches like that, right? This time that turned out to be a good thing. The caterpillar lost its grip on Sid and she hit the ground with a thud. Ouch, she yelped, rubbing her head. Free from the caterpillar's creepy, crawly grasp, it was time to get home. Sid and Eli zipped away like superheroes racing to save the day. In the distance, they noticed the shiny thing floating in the sky like a big glittering golden sun. Right below it was a rock wall that looked just like the one on Sid's swing set, only this one touched the sky. Up they climbed and climbed and climbed. Finally, the two cousins reached the top of the rock wall. Taking Eli's hand, Sid shouted, 1, 2, 3, and they both reached for the shiny thing. With a big thunk, Sid and Eli landed back beside the pond. They looked around. No more topsy-turvy trees. No more glittery pink trees and no more giant caterpillars. They had escaped the strange world and were back in Sid's yard. Feeling relieved, the two cousins busted out laughing just as Sid's mom called them back inside. They had no idea what had happened, but it had been a good adventure for sure. Anything interesting happened today? Mom asked as Sid and Eli walked through the back door. The cousins just looked at each other and smiled. Nothing much, they said together as they kicked off their shoes and flopped onto the couch. Their adventure complete, it was time for a nap. And look, do you see what here? Looks like there's some pink glitter on Eli. and some cheese right down there on the bottom of the shoe. So did they imagine it, or did that really happen?
Thank you.
Welcome.
What a fun adventure. I think my favorite part was the fish who wore tennis shoes. And then the surprise of falling into the river of cheese was also fun.
Yeah, because really, who can argue with a bunch of melted cheese?
No, that sounds delightful. Is there a favorite illustration in your book? Do you have a favorite page?
One of my favorite pages is, I think I probably have two. One would be when Sid gets picked up by the caterpillar. And that's this one, because I like the look on her face. So that's probably one of my favorites. And one of my favorites is actually at the beginning. So remember, Sid and Eli were real kids in real life. And so this one about Sid being loud and Eli being quiet is also one of my favorites, because when they were little, this one to me kind of really sums them up.
That's a sweet picture too. I like the way that Eli is looking at Sid.
And what's cool, kids, is that the illustrator of this book lives all the way over in London. So that was cool to work on a project with an illustrator who was across the world.
That is really cool. Thank you for sharing that. All right, we're going to move on to our next writer. If you have questions for Allison or for any of our writers today, and you have a grown-up with you who can write them into the chat, or at the very end of our program, we can bring those questions forward. That would be awesome, because we're happy to answer kids' questions too. I have now a special guest with me. This is my daughter, Cora, and she wanted to hear these stories too. I am going to now turn it over to Joe, who is going to read his book. Whose hoof is that?
Well, thank you again for having me. And in our world, we say, well, how the hoof are you, everybody? Hopefully doing well. My book is called Whose Hoof Is That? Now, this is about ABCs and animals and what kind of feet they have. And the whole thing rhymes from start to finish. And if you go to Main Street Books and get your own copy, parents, there is an audio version that goes along with this, with all the artwork going across the screen while I read the book to 90s hip hop music. It's about 9 minutes. So if you need a break, you need a restroom, or whatever you need to do, that's the perfect place to take it. It does get a little bit longer, so I'm going to go through about half of the book today, but I'll get going and show you all the pictures here as I read from another copy. So it starts a little something like this. Some animals have hooves that click, and other animals have hooves that clack. So let's learn the alphabet together and find out who has hooves, feet, or even wings that flap. Our first friend is Arnold, an armadillo from Austin. He resembles the possum that lives up in Boston. Arnold has 4 small feet that help him dig so he can find his food from under the twigs. Now, our next letter is B, so let's meet our new friend, a big burly brown bear who we all know as Ben. Ben is from Brooklyn and loves everything sweet. His favorite hobby is napping, but Ben really loves to eat. Ben's mom said, "Don't play with your food or act like a misfit. Now please pass the gravy and finish your biscuit." Ben has 4 paws with really long nails, a big furry coat with a wiggly short tail. We've covered 1 and 2, and now on to 3. So let's meet our new friends and learn the letter C. C is for Coco and Charlie, and they are both cows who like to eat grass and moo really loud. Coco likes to stand outside at the farm, close to where Charlie sleeps at night in the barn. They both have legs that total to 4 that stretch all the way down until they reach the floor. There are 2 in the front and 2 in the back, so when Coco and Charlie run, their hooves click and they clack. All right. D is for Doug, and Doug is a dog who likes to carry sticks the size of big logs. Doug has 4 legs, and each leg has a paw. Since Doug is a good boy, Doug comes when he's called. Now, this one's for you, parents, so be ready. Now, E is for Ellie, that has a trunk that's for smelling. It can reach to her back or even tickle your belly. Ellie is enormous in size, and she is so elegant. She has 4 giant feet and never forgets that she is an elephant. Fast forward to F, where we find our friend Fred. And all day long, Fred stays in the bed. Fred is a fox who eats bagels with lox. He is orange in color, but wears his black socks. Hear him you won't, but maybe you saw the prints that he left with his 4 little paws. Gigi is from Glendale, and she's a giraffe. She has a very long neck with large spots on her back. Gigi is tall and slow when she moves. Gigi reaches real high for her food and has 4 beautiful hooves. Hello to you all. Some people may say hi. We've made our way to H, where we must stop before we get to I. H is our 8th letter, and it helps to make heat. So here is the place where our 3 H friends meet. Harrison and Henry are hippos, and Harper's a horse. They all hail from Hawaii and have hooves, of course. It's incredibly important that we introduce Alana. She is both indigo and green, as she's an intelligent iguana. With a brother named Ian and a sister named Donna, they travel together and vacation in Tijuana. Alana likes to eat insects, but we call them bugs. She might run right past you or stop for a hug. Alana has 4 little legs with toes that look like fingers. She's incredibly fast, but she's an even better singer. Jumping on in, we have a friend you may know, a jovial jaguar, who we all know as Joe. He has a beautiful coat. His friend Jack thinks is snazzy. Joe may jolt from the bushes or even jump when he's jazzy. Joe has very sharp claws that are attached to 4 paws, along with big shiny teeth that rest in his jaw. Kudos to our friend Kyle. He's a khaki wearing dude who high fives with a smile because he's an Australian kangaroo. Kyle is very smart and loves a good challenge. He has 2 hands and 2 feet with a big tail he uses for balance. I'm going to go through N and then I'll stop. Let's meet our friend Lily. She is a luxurious llama who has so much personality, and her favorite club is drama. Lily loves to dance and really let loose. She loves shaking her head and stomping her 4 hooves. Millie, 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 marching everywhere. Millie has 750 feet. That's 375 pair. With all those legs, she could start a stampede. With 1 tough shell, she's Millie the millipede. All right, parents, I hope you're ready for this. Nicky, 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 are those cans you see? Does your narrow tusk help you navigate the sea? Nicky is a narwhal, and we think she's pretty cute. What makes her special are 2 rounded flippers and a curved tail fluke. And I'm going to stop here because it would go for a really long time to get to the end of it. And I want to make sure everybody has time. But thank you all for having me. And again, at Main Street Books, whose hoof is that?
Yes. And I think we had briefly sold out of Whose Hoof Is That? But were you able to, are you bringing more copies by for us?
Yeah, they should be arriving any day. I sent you guys another 5 more.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I appreciated that last melodic reference there. I got
Yes.
it. I'm picking up
Yeah.
what you're putting down.
All right, good.
Cora and I both agreed we appreciated your use of that big word luxurious.
Oh, thank you.
There's some good words in there.
Yeah, really trying to make sure I got all the letters as I walk through each animal and making sure there were plenty of them to help with the transition through each page, but also helping everyone learning to read.
Great. Well, I see somebody in the audience who has a last name that starts with a really fun letter, a Z. Did you use a zebra for your Z?
I
Or
did.
A different animal. And what is your zebra's name?
Oh, well, his name is Zeke. I can just tell you what the page says, or if you guys want to hear it. And it says, Z is for Zeke, and Zeke is a zebra. He was born in late September, so that makes him a Libra. Zeke is pretty tired and needs to catch some Z's. He must now rest his 4 legs, along with his hooves and his knees.
And that's a great ending to a fun rhyming book. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I was telling Joe before we started that I was hoping, I'm in my backyard and there are a lot of deer who like to come visit us, but I have not seen the deer. They might be listening from the woods, but they're not here that I can tell.
Maybe they'll be interested in one of the other books after
Maybe they will. Maybe they will. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thanks so much.
We're going to go now to our friend Frank. Where is Mr. Frank?
Right here, Beth.
Hello. And Frank, are those some of your grandchildren who are listening with us today? They're clapping for you.
Yes, they are. That would be Jack Johns and Frank Johns and their mother, Jen.
Hello. You all are famous.
And their dad, Lucas. Yeah.
All right. Take it away, Frank.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And my book is about JJ. JJ is a little boy who, like all little boys and girls, loves ice cream, his pappy, and his trusty blanket, Foxy. I bet a lot of you guys had a little favorite blanket that you had. Maybe some of you still do. Well, JJ's was Foxy. And of course, his favorite Passy, which I demonstrated earlier. And when his room is invaded by an ooey gooey monster, he realizes that if he's the one that takes the Passy out of his mouth, he gets superpowers to defeat the ooey gooey monster. So let's see how he makes out, okay? This was a typical Sunday at JJ's house. His favorite day was called Sunday Sunday. They were all sitting around having ice cream, and JJ, of course, had his favorite buddy, Foxy, and he even had his Passy with him, sticking it in the ice cream to make his Passy taste better. But soon it was time to go to bed. So JJ had to go upstairs with his mom, and as he was going up the stairs, JJ heard his pappy say to his daddy, JJ still uses a Passy? What is he, a Passy boy? Daddy tried to say, shh, be careful, you'll hurt JJ's feelings calling him a Passy boy. But it was too late. JJ heard Pappy and he said, I am not a Passy boy. I am not a Passy boy, as he went upstairs to bed. His mom tucked him in and his mom said, remember, JJ, you're a big boy. Big boys are brave and they really don't need Passies, said Mommy as she tucked him into bed with Foxy and his favorite Passy. Suddenly, JJ realized it was dark in his room. His room was very dark, too dark. Uh-oh, he realized his night light was missing, and then to make it worse, he heard a sound. Dun, 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 dun was coming from his closet. JJ reached up and he took his Passy out of his mouth to call for his daddy when his Passy fell out of his hand and rolled away. Suddenly, JJ, because he didn't have his Passy in his mouth, felt brave, and he leapt out of bed with a big swoosh. And he stood there by his bed, feeling brave. Suddenly, with a whirl, Foxy flew through the air and turned into a magical cape on the back of JJ. And covered his back and his mask, and boom, Passy Boy was born just like that, with superpowers. Whoosh, Passy Boy flew across the room with his cape soaring behind him and landed in front of the closet. He was no longer afraid of that noise in the closet. And just then, a giant, ooey gooey monster did burst out of the closet, holding Passy Boy's nightlight. So that's what happened to his nightlight. The monster took it. But Passy Boy, he felt no fear because he had superpowers, because he had taken the Passy out of his mouth. Passy Boy let out a great big wah to call his Passy to him, and it flew into his hand from across the room. In a flash, Passy Boy threw the Passy at the monster, where it landed with a great big plop in his ooey gooey stomach. See, it flew in there and it just goes plop. It was like a great big jelly monster. In an instant, the Google became a giggle as the giant ooey gooey monster shrank into a tiny baby blob. You see him shrinking, gurgle, 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 getting smaller. Passy Boy wasn't done, though. He knew he had to get this monster out of his room, but he knew what to do. He reached under his bed where he'd stashed the toy crane Pappy had given him for his birthday. And as soon as his superpowered hand touched the crane, it began to grow and grow and grow. The crane got huge. It filled the entire room. And with the itty bitty burp, the tiny goo goo baby blob dropped the nightlight and squeezed himself further and further into the corner of the room. Passy Boy used his superpowers in his brain to make the crane go swish, swish, swinging the big hook closer and closer and closer to the monster who was still hiding in the corner. All of a sudden, click, clack, the crane grabbed the monster out of the corner and tossed it across the room and out the window and into the night. And just like that, Passy Boy was able to get the monster out of his bedroom. And the ooey gooey, teeny tiny, not so big and bad giant blob monster was gone for good. That's when Passy Boy heard Pappy coming up the stairs to say goodnight. With a whoosh, he jumped back into bed with his trusty blankie Foxy by his side, but he no longer needed his Passy. He was brave enough without it. His eyes shut tight, but he had to wonder if his best friends in the whole world, Mason, Sawyer, Jasper, Jack, and Frank, would ever believe what had happened that night. As Pappy came in and kissed him goodnight and said, "You have a good night, JJ. See you in the morning." And with that, Passy Boy knew that he didn't need his Passy any longer, and he could be brave when he needed to be brave.
Hooray, Passy Boy. I love the part where he tosses his Foxy and it turns into a cape.
Yeah, that's everybody's favorite part, where it goes all of a sudden.
Yep. All of a sudden. Can you tell us about your illustrations too? How they came to be, and do you have a favorite?
I do. My favorite is probably here where the cape flies through the air and it all comes together. He realized he's Passy Boy with the cape, flying cape, and Foxy, and he doesn't need his Passy to do good things in the world.
Yeah, he's got stars coming off of him. He was brave and resourceful.
And up here, we kind of hit a salute to the 5 grandsons that says, "Adventures of the Furious 5." And
Oh, that's so neat to know about.
so that's what we nicknamed the 5 grandsons, the Furious 5. So he has a poster in his room, and it
That's
was
great.
neat.
And how old are the Furious Five now?
Mason is 11, all the way down to Frank, who will be 3 next month. So,
Awesome.
And 2 of them are still struggling with the passing. So,
Yes. Well, may they be forever inspired by Passy Boy himself.
well, thank you so much, Beth, for this, and thank you everyone for tuning in tonight.
Sure. Thanks for being here. We did just have, Cora pointed out, our dear friend was just here, but I think she just tiptoed away. We'll still wait for that moment. Thank you so much, Frank. It's neat. I'm glad that you shared that story, which is for your grandsons, that you shared it with so many of us, because I bet there are a lot of kids out there who could relate to feeling a little bit scared about not having their Passy anymore and wanting that courage. Okay, awesome. We have one more wonderful writer to hear from, and that is Randy Smith. Hi, Randy.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad everybody could be here. So kind of just want to share my book, and it's called Logan Loses Her Cool. A little fun fact about my book, the characters are based off of my own family. So my 2 daughters are Logan. It's just like a little mix of both of them together. And then Lucky is just like my dog. We have a Great Dane at home too. He's not Harlequin like Lucky. He's plain black, but he's just as big as he is. So I'll go ahead and read it. So here's the title page, which is, I really like my title page because it plays off of what's about to happen. So you see Lucky's over here and he's looking at her and she hasn't quite blown yet, but we'll see what's going to happen. And here we go. What's wrong, Logan? I know some of us have felt this way. I know I have. I'm having a bad day, Lucky. I want some ice cream, but Mom said no. Anybody's mom ever said no? Or dad? Mine have. Yeah, your life is tough. I can see why you're so upset. I haven't had a dog treat all week. Maybe I should stomp and yell and cry. Does Mom usually give you what you want when you act that way? Well, no. Usually she ignores me or I get in trouble. All that work for nothing? I have a few ideas that might help you express your feelings in a better way. Will these ideas keep me out of trouble? That's all she wants to know. Will these ideas help me? Yep. I learned some great tools when I was living with my 8 brothers and sisters. You never get your way with that many siblings. I'll share the 3 tips I learned that are sure to keep you out of trouble. So here we go. He's going to share some tips now. We have tip 1, take a deep breath. Everybody take a deep breath. It's like blowing on a big camera. Ready? And over here, we have Lucky when he was little at his birthday party. It's just like blowing out a big candle. That will help you calm down. So there he is, blowing out the big candle. Tip 2, ask for a break. You see Lucky over here doing his favorite thing he likes to do to take his break. Ask Mom for some quiet time. Sometimes a little break helps a lot. So he's taking his time, doing some reading, just stepping away for a second. And tip 3, this is my favorite one. Share your feelings. And he's writing it down. I am sad because asking questions and talking about how I feel always calms me down. But sometimes I don't like talking right away. I like to draw a picture or write down how I'm feeling. It gives me a chance to think about what I will say when I'm ready to talk. So that's the big tip. Sometimes I don't like to talk right away. I like to write it down or maybe draw some pictures before I'm ready. Wow, Lucky, those are some great tips and seem a lot better than crying and screaming. Let's hope you remember that the next time you don't get your way. So he doesn't seem convinced that she will remember these tips next time. Let's see. All right, so 2 days later, looks like we might blow. Let's see. And here she is. Oh, she's thinking about those great tips that Lucky gave her. So she's taking her deep breath. She's reading a book for her break, and she's talking to Mom, sharing her feelings. Yay, I did it. I feel much better after following your tips. Thanks, Lucky. You're welcome, Logan. I've always got your back. And something fun about the back of our book, it's got some tips for parents as well that you can read over and kind of get some more ideas, meditation, different things you can do. And then we have Logan's list. So these are our emotion words that we usually use, but it kind of digs a little deeper because sometimes angry doesn't cover how we feel. Sometimes we might feel frustrated, or sometimes we might feel cranky. And so it gives us a better idea and helps us communicate a little bit better with our adults. And also little bonuses in the back. You can color Logan and Lucky, and we have a word search with all of our fun tips and words to help you remember how to handle your emotions when you get in those pickles sometimes. And
Thank you. That's such a helpful book. I think that is, especially this year, we've had a lot of opportunities to practice some of Logan's tips. Certainly at my house.
yes, and that was kind of what we were going for, self-help book for kids. So that was our simple, basic, easy way to try to get into everyone's home.
So what made you decide to have Logan, or Lucky, sorry, your the pup, as the teacher here?
So I kind of, when I feel it, I think about my daughters and how they really love their dog, and how if he could talk, I'm pretty sure they would never listen to anything that I had to say. And I always feel like animals are like the kid's trusty sidekick, and, you know, someone they go to when they just need a hug, or if they just need, sometimes my girls sit there and talk to my dog. So I wanted someone that most kids can relate to. And whether it be a bunny or a lizard or a dog, it's some type of pet as a great companion.
Yes, we agree. I'm wondering if anybody who's here with us today, a lot of you have your videos off, but I see like Declan's video picture is actually a picture of a dog. I'm wondering if anybody here has a pet at home.
I know we do.
Yes. They're super, super helpful for taking a break or giving a hug or feeling better. There's Declan. You have a dog?
Yes.
What's your dog's name?
Her name's Georgia.
Georgia. Is Georgia a good one to have around if you're feeling frustrated or upset?
Yes.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Declan.
You're welcome.
Well, to our local authors for being here and sharing your books, thank you so much. What a treat this has been. I am wondering if any of our audience members have any questions for these great writers, including you. Do you have any questions?
She's a cutie, Beth.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience before we finish up our weekends? Oh, Catherine is saying they have a pet too. Thank you for sharing that, Catherine.
Jack, if you have a question, unmute.
I got it.
You want to say who your cats are? Okay.
Good.
Say what your cats' names are.
Weenie and Turtle.
2 cats.
2 cats. And did you say one of your cats' names is Turtle?
Yes. See, the other one's Weenie. That's
No,
all.
it's
Right.
like-
Weenie.
Halloween.
After Halloween.
That's a weird shot.
Those are great cat names. What color are your cats?
Black.
Black and calico.
And Calico, is Halloween the black cat?
So yes.
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 That's a great name for a black cat. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Well, we're going to let you all go and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you again for being here. And I just want to remind everybody that if you enjoyed these books as much as I did and Cora did, You can find them at Main Street Books. And I hope when you all write your next books that we get to actually hear you read them to us in person. That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Beth.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Have a great day. Goodbye, everyone.